Hello and welcome. This is another quick look to remind you a shorter way of doing a try and fly, usually with aircraft that I have tested before. So here we have the M-Sparks Sparky 747-400 freeware. It's based on the old Laminar Boeing 747-400, and the project has been ongoing now for quite some time. The developer M-Sparks, as he's called on GitHub, is attempting to create somewhat in the direction of the Zibo for the 747. Quite a bit of work has gone into it already. In all my previous test flights, the aircraft wasn't really usable, to be honest, and usually I try it every couple of months. But this time there was a release just a couple of weeks ago of version 3.0. It was sometime in April, if I remember correctly. In the meantime, there's actually, 3.1, I think, yeah. And in the meantime, there's actually a release from the 24th of April, 2023. That's this one here. I tested it 2-3 weeks ago in a stream on Twitch, and it failed utterly because I was not yet on XP12.05, which it was the base on which this has been developed on now, and therefore that was a complete failure. In the meantime, 12.05 is released. I'm not putting on betas anymore. I'm fed up with testing betas, so this is now the official 12.05 release, and the Sparky, which is supposedly compatible with 12.05. We will see that there has been quite a bit of progress here. The aircraft is definitely better than my previous versions that I tested, but I also, at the end of the flight, the ILS approach went completely wrong. I hope that I've learned from what I've seen and will manage to get it going without having to do it manually, the approach. We shall see. Okay, so let's set up M-Sparks 747, and I'm not going to have this on video. Again, this is a quick look, so I'm only going to show you certain parts where it is noteworthy. By the way, the cockpit is, I think, is a modified version of the original one. There are definitely some changes versus the old one, the old model, and it actually looks quite good. I also found a very good checklist for the M-Sparks Sparky B744 here, which I quite like. It's not perfect either, but I think it's quite good. So it actually has a good flow of checklists, procedures, and checklists. Very nice. It could be the base for me doing a KP crew module for the M-Sparks. So visually, quite a good job. And now let's see what we have to do in order to get it flying. Okay. So a lot of these switches are now working and have some logic behind it. So I'm doing a very quick setup without the checklist at the moment, just activating the utility bus, standby power, the battery, turn it on and latch it. Turn on all these buttons, bring the auxiliary hydraulic pump online, and I'm not sure if the APU is actually firing up. Let's see. Apparently not. Let's stay on it a bit longer. And then see if that Okay. Then let's go through the ground handling stuff. So first of all, you can call for ground service, and you can attach a ground power unit. Yesterday I was able to start up the APU no problem. Today somehow it does not work, or at least it doesn't look like it's working. See? Okay, we have now external power. Let's activate the external power. I may have done something wrong. Let's turn off the APU again, and I'll continue to set up further. By the way, you can set the fuel and the payload either by using the total payload and total internal fuel weight. That's one way. Or you go here to the menu and let me see, I think it was here. Go to Pax Cargo. If you're like me in a freighter version, go to page 2. And what you can do is you can enter either individual values, I think, or what I usually do is I kind of provide the payload. It's not always clear where you have to click, in this case here, and then it spreads the payload over the zones here. That's something internal, which we should then see reflected in, well, we don't. Oh no, payload weights, 17748. Okay, yeah. Interesting rounding. So let's do 19 and see if that reflects in the load up here. Yep, it does, yeah. Okay, so there seem to be some rounding issues or something like that. Anyway, that's the way to load freight. There are two versions of the airplane, at least from the logic point of view. So if you go to aircraft config, then here you can set things like the units and if the fuel management. I'm not sure what this does here. If you have to, when you say yes, I have to try and read it again somewhere. We are on HPA and Barosync I've turned on, and don't forget to save when you make any changes. If you go to page 2 and 3, you see more, and here is, by the way, the type, and I have selected freighter for this particular aircraft. Oh yeah, I just see the airline is wrong. This is actually Challenger, CHL. You save it. I'm not sure what all this does, really, but just to give you an idea. Now that we are at the FMC, let's quickly do the usual setup here. So this is our initial page, ident page, reference airport is EDDS. Now there is kind of a simulated IRS alignment and all that. You can set the time. It's by default 10 minutes. I reduce it to 1 minute. And now the displays are still black with a align thing on, because we haven't yet set the position, and the only way to do this is use this here. Just verify that it's correct. It is in this case. Press here and then you have aligned displays. Okay. So that's that. Then the route, we're flying from Echo Delta Delta Sierra to Echo Delta Delta Mike, the usual thing. Runway will be 07. Not that this does a lot here. Flight number, this is somehow misleading here, because flight number can be entered down here. What did I do now? No. Oh, that was not what I intended. Yeah, already a mistake. Not cancel mod. Okay, that could. Is that? Yeah. It's sometimes a little bit unclear what you put where. So now we have TT1. Interesting. Okay. the message overrides the scratch pad. All right. Anyway, because nothing, you can't enter anything here. So this is the flight number. It's a bit confusing because I wouldn't expect it there, but I don't know. Must be in some variant of the Boeing FMCs. Maybe it is like that. So we can then go for the departure. Runway 07, Apta for hotel. I usually press the exec button. Don't know if it's really necessary. And then we already know the arrival. It's ILS 08 left with vectors. Execute legs. We should have a discontinuity. We do. So that's fine. We take Magat. We place it here. We execute. And then we go back to route. And we go on performance. And we can already see that's our 19.4 fuel. 221.9 gross weight. Reserves, I don't know, I'm just putting in some values here, and I have no idea if this is actually actively doing anything. Now, we do have a problem with the altitude stuff, so if we go here and you press, you get actually the original standard FMC, and you can enter the, you can enter the transition altitude in the climb section. And theoretically, you can enter a separate transition flight level here, but you can't. So I tried everything. It doesn't take it. All right. So whatever way this is working, I'm guessing they might be linked. Let's see. Yep, so they're linked. They can only be the same. So if you want to change the transition level on your approach, you need to go here and do it on this level. I didn't find it in the other FMC, or maybe I just didn't look in the right place. Could be. In the meantime, we need to try and get the APU started, and I think it's firing up. Finally, it's firing up. Let me see. Yeah, it is. It is. Okay. Let's continue here. I had a hard time to find a view that is not obstructed by the speed brake lever. So you can see that the standard FMC is still below this thing, so sometimes you see your last entry here showing up here. Let's go to thrust limit. Yeah, I'm not derating. I'm not even sure if this is doing anything. I'm taking the takeoff 1 setting, which is an EPA value of 1.44. Outside temperature is 12 degrees. That's actually correct. Standard weather. Let's go to takeoff. We're going to take off with flaps 10. Engine out acceleration is 1500 feet. Thrust reduction with flaps 5, climb 1. Trim CG 23%. So we would then try and so that view doesn't give me that. Would then try. What was that? Again. 23%. Okay, so that doesn't give us. Oh, it's 3.3. Did it show that before? Probably did. It was just too stupid to see it. Okay, so I use the see the white bar is coming up. Now, if these calculations are correct or not, I can't tell you. So I put it roughly somewhere around 3. And in the green area, which is the stabilizer trim needs to be, for takeoff needs to be in the green area. There was a real trimming issue in the previous versions, because basically the aircraft ran out of trim, elevator trim, and therefore the whole flight was not a good experience with it. This seems to be fixed now, which is very good. So I'm quite happy to see that it works. Okay, our reference speed is our V1 is 103, rotation 116, and V2 141. Just remember that I have to start my hardware mobile flight. So, if you use hardware, it's actually quite a slow thing. Yeah, you can see heading and speed and things like that. They act slow, so you have to give it quite a few turns. So I have actually started to use the mouse for this. Actually, another thing that I'm not sure, one of the reasons why we may have failed on the ILS approach on my flight was that this is here in auto. Why is this so? Anyway, auto. It looked like it was a very shallow turn. It did in auto mode. So at least later on for the approach, I will put this to 25 because it really couldn't get it turned in time. Yeah, so we had already shot over. And there's another thing that seems to be in XP12. If you activate the ILS approach mode of the autopilot too far away, it will start doing funny things and align itself somehow weirdly. But I'm not sure now what to do, so I will try this time to activate the approach mode as late as possible. Actually, when we have aligned already on the course at Magat, because, as I say, there was some weird things happening. Okay, now I'll continue. You've seen the most important parts. I'll continue now with the checklist and get the aircraft ready for pushback. When you don't need the external power, the ground power anymore, you just go here, ground services, and you disconnect the ground power, and then it's away again. Okay, now we are ready for pushback. Better Pushback has put itself in place. I've gone through all the before start stuff. Here comes now the engine start, which is actually pretty simple. The throttles need to be in the idle position, and then you pull and hold the starter button. You start with number 4, 3, 2, 1. And the nice thing on the checklist is it will tell you when N2 is at 12%. Otherwise, you have to do it yourself. And the idea is you click on that button here. So I'm going to do that. Well, yeah, let's actually start with the pushback. By the way, park brake somehow doesn't seem to work with the standard command, or at least not as expected. So I'm not always sure because Better Pushback I'm not sure what Better Pushback is doing now. I think it got confused. Park brake is now set. Yeah, though there is still an issue with this here. It did work yesterday, but I wasn't sure what state the park brake was in. Not good. Doesn't seem to detect now that we are. Oh. I think Better Pushback got itself. Yeah. Hang on. Okay, I stopped the pushback and then reconnected it, and looks like it's now ready to push back. So let's try. It asked me to see if that. Yeah, I think there's a problem with the detection of the parking brake, and I don't have my data ref tool running, so that'll be, yeah, the command doesn't work. That was probably the issue. Why did it work yesterday? Your guess is as good as mine. So how am I going to do this now? I'm trying the command with which to toggle the park brake. You can see here the brake pressure. Do we not have enough hydraulic power? Should have. So now the pressure is in the green. Park brake is on. Now it's off. Hang on. I think I know what I did wrong. I forgot. It had automatically set the chocks. I didn't do that myself, and I forgot. You have to turn off the chocks.
And you may start the engines.
Yes, thank you. There we go, finally. So you have to watch out for that. Now, you press the engine when the light should go on, then you kind of look down here and you are, let's switch to engine display. So you're looking for N2, which is here, and you can see how it slowly spools up, and when it reaches 12, at least on the display, you turn this knob up. And then you wait until the engine stabilizes, which means that that light will go out, and you do that for all 4 engines. So the pushback has finally brought us into position, and I just reached 12, so number 1. You can hear the outmost left engine just spooling up. And the starters are all out. Now we can continue with the before taxi procedure. So APU selector, we can turn it off now. Hydraulic demand selectors, put the last one into order as well. There are some checklist item or procedure items here that you cannot do, or maybe they didn't know how this is coded or so. So some of them are not automatic. Yeah. Yaw dampers, we turn them on. Flaps to takeoff config. So for that we need flaps 10. So I'll dial flaps 10. ICAS stat. We go on the stat page, and we do the flight controls check. So elevator full forward, full back, neutral. Ailerons full left, full right, neutral, and rudder full left. Goes a little bit out of the scale. Full right, neutral. Okay, so that's that. Then the before taxi checklist: anti-ice is not required. Recall. Checked. We still have a fuel pressure indication here, and that's because these 2 pumps apparently, then we have fuel pump stabilizer left and right. Now they're out. Okay. A-cars, okay, that's something. Outer brake is RTO, passenger signs are on, and parking brake is set. White indicators are just telling you the state. Flight controls are checked, ground equipment is clear, and so now we are ready. We're going to turn on the taxi, and they want the runway turn-off lights. Okay, parking brake release. It is. And now we are moving forward. Now the thing is, it needs quite a bit of power, depending also on how heavy it is. So push these thrust levers forward a good bit, at least a quarter. And when it finally starts moving, you can take it back a little bit. I tried a view down here, but that didn't really work very well. And be careful not to be too fast, like me now. You shouldn't really be more than 10 knots in the ground speed in the turn here. You have to keep some power, or otherwise you'll stop. I'm going to line up immediately now. Normally we would have to stop and then, but I'm not going to do that. I'm lining up immediately. Yeah, I have about 1.05 EPA power on the 4 engines for taxi. That keeps us a ground speed of 10 knots. And I use the steering tiller. I have a joystick, an old throttle joystick that I use as a steering tiller. Okay. Activated the park brake. Now let's go through the strobes on, all landing lights, strobe lights on, all landing lights are on. Somehow it doesn't detect this transponder. Put on TARA and the chrono. Yeah, press that up here. So, takeoff technique, stabilize 1.1 EPA then TOGA. Monitor correct. TOGA, by the way, the knob is here. Okay. 1.1 EPA then TOGA, monitor correct, takeoff thrust, whatever that means, rotate to 15 degrees at 2.5 degrees per second. Yeah, then you call for gear up as soon as there's a positive rate and flaps up. So I think there will be announcements. And the V-speed, 119 I think is our V1. It will announce the V1, if I remember correctly from yesterday. Let's check that we have got everything as we need it here. No, we haven't yet. So let's set up the heading. That's our V-speed 132. Let's also already set the altitude. Then we're turning on to autopilots, LNAV, VNAV, auto throttle, and landing lights are on, flaps 10, so that should be fine. Now you can probably program yourself so I'm going to bring the power up now to 1.1 EPA roughly. And that's a bit of a problem, but once you press this button, I also release the park brake and we are rolling. You can program yourself a button. I just happen to have none in this profile.
80 knots.
And actually this works pretty well now, the takeoff phase. V1, what, already? Holy, yeah, we are light.
Approaching minimums.
Positive rate.
So, gear up. Yeah, especially when you are flying with Airbuses, it is a little bit tough. Okay, so I activate the autopilot early, see what it does. Because that used to not work very well. When we look at the indication, we're now for flap 5, so I'm setting flap 5. Check that out, you see, so it's now accelerating, but the speed isn't following.
Sink rate.
Oh, and that's because it's sinking. That's not good. So there's still a bit of a problem with the vertical management. Now we're climbing. So it got much better than before, but you still have to be on the watch here. It's doing strange things. It's, as I say, it's better than before, but it's not perfect yet. So it's now slowly starting to increase the speed. Okay, then, yeah, the auto brake automatically went into the off position. Flaps are in, gears are in, transition altitude, standard. And we are now in the climb procedure. Landing gear off, outboard landing lights can be turned off. The other ones stay on until 10,000 feet. After takeoff, climb checklist packs on. Landing gear up and off, flaps off. All right, now let's see what happens when we reach the next interesting point. By the way, the progress page is useful enough. Selected speed 250. We have the top of descent in 43 nautical miles, a couple of minutes, and it calculates that we land with 15.6 tons of fuel in Munich. So that's quite okay. And you can see here now it's climbing. Yesterday did actually climb a bit faster, but I would consider this to be a good one, good climb rate. Because we're still below 10,000, it keeps the 250. Now we reached 10,000, so I turn this off. We are in automatic mode for the lights anyway, passenger lights or passenger signs, and have I turned the other ones on now? Oh, hang on. Or? Oh, yeah, I turned them on. So we've reached 10,000. We're still on 250. Let's see if we go on the enough. Econ climb 250. Okay. Speed transition 272. Oh, look, there's transition altitude again. I'm not sure if I can change it. Yes. Now I've changed it. So that's our Econ cruise at flight level, cruise altitude 14,000, which isn't correct. It should say flight level 14. We are not going to step to flight level 160. And speed at transition 240. Okay. Let's go to the forecast page. Doesn't exist. Okay. So we turned. Now again, the speed with which the events are translated into heading change. If you have to do more than 100 degrees, you'll be turning the wheel quite a bit. So with large changes, I use the mouse. It's quicker. But anyway, we've reached... No, we haven't reached flight level 140. What the heck? Ah, we are now accelerating to 300. Econ speed of Mach point. What happens if I change this to Mach 0.61? Let's see. Nothing. So that's one of the problems that I have is we're getting too fast, and then it's extremely difficult to slow it down again. So I'm going to try speed intervention. Speed intervention. Let's try and force the... Oh well. So the top of descent is closer. So I'm going to hold the current altitude, at least I try to. We're now reducing again. Yeah, that's the problem. It's very difficult to slow down the aircraft, and if it's that fast, as soon as we go into a descent, at least the descent that it calculates, we'll end up with the speed increasing and increasing and increasing. So I'm going to use vertical speed and to also try and manage the speed. We are on practically idle. Sometimes you hear this stuck noise. That is when the throttle is going to idle. I'm not sure why they did it like that. Before preparing. So yeah, the artist is checked auto brake. We're going to set on 1. So before descent checklist, recall checked auto brake 1 landing data VREF. Flaps 30, 135. And now I'm dialing in the 5,000 feet and see what the VNAV path does. My guess is we're going to accelerate on the descent. So I will most likely have to intervene with vertical speed. Oh, hang on. Let's go back to VNAV path. Okay, you can see now there's a VNAV path indicator, and it will now try and keep this on the right line. Yesterday it calculated the descent not too badly, so we're kind of at 5,000 feet around Magat. And speed-wise we are okay now. Let's see what happens when it eventually goes into a descent, which doesn't happen immediately. Okay. That's not good. And as you can see, somehow I don't really get, now we're getting faster, so I had to use speed brakes more or less all the way during the descent. And instead of holding the vertical speed, it kind of still is in some form of VNAV mode. Yeah, let's see what happens when I do level change. So I bring in the speed brakes because we are slightly below the 270 knots. We are getting faster now. And now you can see it tries to kind of compensate for the speed increase, but that costs us vertical speed, and this way it will not work, so I'm applying speed brake again. To bring down the speed. Yeah, then we're going under. It tries to compensate now with quite some vertical speed. Yeah. So let's do a bit less. So this is by far not what a real 0.747 would do. It's better than what we had before, but it still is a lot of manual intervention here. Now the other thing I'm going to do is bring the max bank angle to 25, or to a max value. So I'm controlling now with the speed brake roughly that we stay on at least 277. And you can see that the descent indicator tells us we will be at 5,000 around Magat, which is good, because we need this for the intercept of the glide slope. So as I say, today I will not have the ILS. Approach mode will come on only when we are in line with the runway, which means that we have turned at Magat. Yeah, let's see how that continues. Okay, I'm now manually reducing the speed because it kept it on 270. I have the speed brake completely out. I'm now waiting for the turn to happen. We're at 5,000. Now it's turning. I'm now activating all the approach mode. Localizer is already green. Yep. And glide slope is also captured. I got the speed brake fully out. Flaps 1. I'm manually controlling the speed now because that didn't work at all yesterday. Yeah, this quick look is slightly longer than expected, but yeah, that's what happened when the aircraft in question is, yeah. I know I brought out the flaps 1 and you see we still get faster, so it's almost impossible to keep the aircraft unless I bring out
sync rate 500. Sync rate.
And that's the other thing, it you know, it's not very stable on the glide slope, so I'm bringing out the gears now. That will also help with slowing it down. Okay, 3 green, down. Next stage of flap. Now I need to have the speed brake out fully, otherwise we're going to get faster and faster. Flaps 10. And I'm bringing the speed down as needed. Flaps 20. What is that? Okay, so now let's bring it to reference speed. So it has a land 3 activated. Well. Speed brake, let's arm it. I can't arm it, so I will manually extend it. So theoretically we do an autoland now. The tac is, we are way above the glide slope.
400.
Way above.
300.
Ooh. Uh-oh.
200.
Look at the, wow.
100.
Oh man.
Minimums.
Oh my god. Oh my god. That,
Speed brakes up. Reverse is normal.
no, that was not good.
80 knots.
Autopilot is off. And
80 knots.
manual
80
braking.
knots.
Oh my god. Yeah, that was... at least we landed automatically. So turning onto the ILS and then turning on the approach button there is actually working. I think we still have auto thrust running. Let's turn that off as well. And stop. Let's clean up that mess. What should I say? If I would have done that landing myself, I would now have a chat with the chief pilot. It's much better than it used to be honest. It's now possible to actually do the flight for most parts, and it's actually looking pretty decent the way it flies along the route, unlike previous versions and previous attempts that I had. The whole approach thing needs work, so it's not yet there. Chances are that you either miss the glide path or you have seen the whole speed management is still a mess. It's almost impossible to slow this thing down. I've been continuously using the speed brake yesterday and today, because otherwise this aircraft will just accelerate and accelerate and accelerate, and then we were already a little bit on the fast side on the approach, and then it did some deep nosedives, which doesn't help. Yeah, not yet, but we're getting there. We're getting there with the Sparky 747. Glad to see that the project hasn't died and is actually quite active. There's also Discord. So happy enough with the progress. But let's wait another release, and then as soon as a new release is out, I'll do another quick look, and hopefully it'll be a shorter one next time. Thank you for watching. Until next time.